This video is brought to you by Squarespace, the best platform for building your own website. Let me ask you something. What this scene, this one, and this other one have in common? Well, they all have circular shapes all over the place. Sometimes they're in the background, sometimes right in the center, and sometimes the camera even moves in a circle, like in this moment, until the record stops when this guy shows up and ruins the night. And the same thing happens in the laundromat, where those circles work almost like vinyl records. But to understand why this matters, we need to rewind a bit.
Baby?
This is Baby.
B-A-B-Y, baby.
And his story is pretty simple. He's the getaway driver for a criminal crew, and of course he wants out.
One more job and I'm done.
But he can't.
One more job, and we're straight.
Then he meets a girl.
Your name?
Well, you can get that for free. It's Debbie. Deborah.
Falls for her.
I do like it.
Good.
And suddenly wants out even more. And as the story goes on, it basically becomes a redemption arc.
I'm sorry, ma'am.
With Baby finally overcoming his trauma, and of course ending up with a girl. But the most interesting part is what put him in that position to begin with.
He stole my Mercedes.
Had a lot of merch in it. I watched him do it, too.
Basically, when he was younger, he stole a car from a crime boss,
Since he's been paying me back, he's also shown me what he's capable of.
and ended up in debt for life. But it doesn't really start there, because that troubled relationship with cars probably began with the accident that left him orphaned. And the whole movie is really about how he never escaped that moment. And to express that idea, Edgar Wright uses a device that I think is really clever.
You're right.
You see, there's something I love about this movie, because we already know Wright is a master at using visual language to show what his characters are feeling. Just look at this moment in Scott Pilgrim. Or this one of my favorites from Last Night in Soho.
Okay, go.
But what I love about Baby Driver is that Wright pushes it even further. Not just because the whole movie runs on the logic of a musical, where everything around the protagonist feels choreographed to his mood, as if the entire world were one big orchestra, and every little interaction hits like a musical note, whether it's gunshots, a siren, a woman talking on the street, or even a simple gesture. It's also because Wright brings something into his visual language that I don't really remember seeing from him before. And that brings us back to the visual motif I mentioned earlier, the circle. Throughout the entire film, these circular shapes keep showing up in the visual language around Baby. You see it in the wheels, the music player, the buttons, the coffee cups, the pizza, and of course, the vinyl records. And even the very first scene after the credits sets up this idea of a circle, a kind of cyclical journey. We start with the building's design, which resembles a road stretching into infinity. It's an obvious detail, sure, but I like it because it echoes the ending, where that longing actually becomes real. Then we go to Baby stepping out of his building, and we get this long, uninterrupted one take that doesn't cut until the very end, where the shot mirrors itself, but with Baby coming back in from the opposite side. Basically, the whole walk and the whole scene plays like one giant circle.
You're all paid up. Cause for celebration.
Even the structure works this way, in a sense. You think Baby's about to break free, but he ends up right back where he started.
So what's it gonna be? Behind the wheel or in a wheelchair?
The first one.
And maybe I'm overanalyzing, but I really don't think it's a coincidence.
Some of the older characters in it, Bats and Doc and Buddy and Griff, they sort of like all older, and there's a sort of like, they're like a sort of cynical circle that are suppressing your hero.
And even his whole character arc is circular, because his story starts with him as a passenger, not the one in control. And he ends his arc the same way, as a passenger again, once more listening to his mother's voice.
Was really your mom?
Yeah.
She has a beautiful voice.
And with a woman who clearly echoes that maternal presence. Something Wright sets up through the use of yellow, a color tied to the innocence Baby lost. And of course, his whole journey is about breaking out of that circle, leaving behind the kid he used to be so he can finally become a man. That's why, by the end of this movie, he stops going by Baby, and we finally learn his real name.
I still can't get used to the fact that your real name is Miles.
And this theme of growing into oneself shows up across many of Wright's films.
Yeah, thought maybe we could try again.
Sean,
Yeah.
do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, totally.
I know he's your best friend, but you do live with him.
I know.
You know, with Shaun of the Dead, it was obvious that we were going to have a character who was like me and Simon in our late 20s, who was going to go on a journey during a zombie apocalypse. But the journey was an emotional one. It's about him stepping up and not being an adolescent anymore.
And I want to talk about this idea Wright mentions, about how his character actually resembles him. But first, a quick shout out to today's sponsor, Squarespace. Lately I have been organizing everything for my first short film, and one of the things I really needed was a central hub for the project. That's why I turned to Squarespace, which it's honestly the only platform that gives you total creative control without the headache of coding or hiring a developer. Because their new AI features helped me structure the pages instantly, giving me a sleek custom site that elevates the whole project. But of course, the design is just the container. You also need a proper address to be found, and Squarespace Domains makes it incredibly simple to claim your spot on the web, and crucially, they protect your data, offering free privacy protection and security by default, with no hidden fees or add-ons. Plus, you can also do so much more, like add videos or accept donations. So if you're interested, head over to squarespace.com for a free trial. And when your site is ready to launch, go to squarespace.com/Lancelotti to save 10% on your first purchase of a website or domain. Now, back to the video.
I was in an accident when I was little.
Is that what happened to your mom?
Yeah, my dad. I miss her.
When I say that Baby Driver is about Baby overcoming his trauma and closing a circle, I'm not claiming it's some groundbreaking piece of psychological storytelling.
No? You telling me no?
But what is brilliant is how every visual and sonic element perfectly captures Baby's inner state, to the point where it creates this kind of psychocosmic parallel between Baby's inner world and everything around him. Which of course was already set up in the script.
And I read it, and it was on this iPad. They made a special app for it, and I had never read a script like this. And it had little logos at the top of every page, and if you clicked the logo, you heard the song that went with the scene.
You see, Wright has always struck me as one of those directors who can jump between genres without ever losing himself. He can go from cops, to zombies, to the end of the world.
Hey, Earth isn't perfect, all right? And humans aren't perfect. And guess what? I ain't perfect.
Or completely switch tones, from teen comedy to psychological thriller. And of course, a full-on action film.
But you took something away from me that I loved.
And still, you're unmistakably watching an Edgar Wright movie.
That was quick.
And I think that's because all of them follow the same principle. The relationship between sound and image creates this almost third dimension.
Come on, they're waiting for you.
Of course, part of that comes from his early work in comedy.
I wrote a song about you.
You did?
Yeah, it goes like this.
Where sound becomes one of your greatest allies. The thing that can reshape an image or land a visual joke, like in this moment. Or this beat from Shaun of the Dead, which is basically the blueprint for Baby Driver, to the point Wright used to pitch the film by saying it would be like that sequence, but for 2 hours. Though truth be told,
Then you gotta watch.
That don't read too good. Okay, you got 2 minutes, 54 seconds from now.
the real genesis of it all goes back to this music video he directed for Mint Royale. If you watch it, it's almost exactly the same premise as Baby's opening scene. And you'll even notice a few visual moments that were lifted straight into the movie.
The germ of the idea goes back as far as like 22 years ago when I was like 21. But I had this idea about like a action movie set to music, and it was inspired by listening to like rock songs or like, you know, music that I liked and imagining sequences to go with them.
Because the truth is, this idea of pushing the sound-driven concept to the extreme has been chasing him since the beginning of his career.
I would listen to sort of this particular track off this album, which is the same track that opens the movie, and I just like, had an image of a car chase that I couldn't kind of get out of my head. So in a sense, that's where me and Baby are kind of somewhat similar, is that we're both obsessed by music.
Let's go. Wait. I gotta start the song over.
And use music as motivation. So then I came up with the idea of the character, the getaway driver that can't operate at his fullest without the right music playing.
And in that sense, Wright has a lot more in common with his protagonist than you'd think.
I started directing the BBC when I was 22.
Well, like I said, that was our boy. He's been boosting cars since he was old enough to see over the dash.
Both are young prodigies.
Because some people would be on board and other people would be like, who the fuck is this kid?
It's your boy, right? It's the one who say listen to the music all the time?
Both depend on music, and both are obsessively devoted to what they do. That's why he approaches a simple scene of the character buying coffee with the same level of commitment as a full-blown action sequence. But that's not the only thing they share.
I like to listen back to conversations. I make music out of the words, songs, mixes. It's just something I do.
You see, my personal obsession is finding parallels between creators and their characters.
No, slow.
And that's why I love the scene of Baby taking those cassette recordings he found and turning them into new music, remixing them. Because in a way, that's exactly what Wright is doing. Not just turning the everyday into something artistic, like making a couple of coffee cups line up with the rhythm, but crafting an entire film that works like a giant remix. A remix of songs, yes, but also of influences, visual ideas, and tricks he's collected throughout his career. And in a very real sense, I think this film closes the same circle that opened when he was 20, back when he first became obsessed with this idea. After years of experimenting and remixing, it finally comes full circle, and you can feel it.